Welcome, everyone, to Esalen Live, where we chat with change agents, swim deep waters, and keep going on our exploration of human potential. I'm your host, Christine Chen. Happy New Year again. Sometimes in a new year, our practice is to let go of the past, which often includes clearing out clutter in the mind, or maybe even your home. One of the layers of that practice is being mindful about the objects in your home. Well, today we get some pretty beautiful guidance from Heather Martin. She's a Reiki healing instructor, and she's also Esalen's head retail buyer and merchandiser for the bookstore. She's got a deep history in retail and merchandising. She worked for Lisa Rinna and Harry Hamlin on their store Belgrade in Los Angeles, also in Fred Siegel and so forth and so on. So many things she could talk about. She is also the human at Esalen behind the new online store. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for showing up and sharing your beautiful expertise. This is just perfect to have someone with your expertise dealing with and curating the objects for Esalen. Can you tell us why this is just a great intersection for you personally and your human potential?
Yeah, for the last several years, I've really kind of been wanting to do something that was wellness based and really for the potential of people and spiritually speaking. And I still wanted to do my merchandising. I love that aspect of my life. And this came about and I couldn't pass it up. So
Yeah.
that's how I ended here.
And how is like working with objects in our home a part of your mindful practice? And how can it be a part of our own mindful practice as we head into a new year and maybe think about clearing out clutter in our home, which also can help clear out clutter in the mind? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think for me personally, I love to refresh things, but I also really tend to be attached to things that have some special meaning, like my grandmother's wedding ring or something, or an object that my grandfather had is out on display. Something that's personal, as well as refreshing with things that are new and bring you, immense happiness and connection to your own self.
Yeah, we hear a lot about the word curate, and we use the word curate a lot with art and objects. What does that word mean to you?
For me, it's really about bringing into your space and to your home environment that kind of spark and that kind of essence that you want to be around. The joy and the happiness. There's a lot of talk about bringing joy from an object or from a thing in your home, and I am a true believer of that. That if you surround yourself with beauty, and that could mean a lot of things, and it means something different for everybody. What that looks like in a space.
And it doesn't mean that we have to go out and buy a bunch of new stuff. In fact, it means I think sometimes the opposite, which is to like choose carefully from either the things that are you have already or to select things that maybe go by the wayside for now. Would you say that's true?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is something for me that I actually love to clear it all out and then go in and really look at everything. I just say I'm going to use, for an example, a table, take it all off and then put back the things that I really feel passionate about or that really bring an emotion into my life and into that moment. And then purge the rest of it because somebody else out there is going to love it and it's going to mean something to them where it may mean less to me at that given moment. And that can
Right.
be found in things that are really old and things that you maybe got this year, but you don't necessarily need to go and buy something new.
Okay. Well, you sent me a bunch of pictures to kind of help us understand this perspective. So I'm going to roll through the pictures. And Heather, you just tell us why you chose these pictures to sort of make a point about objects and curation and the mindful practice of arranging objects in your home. So this is one that you sent me about coffee tables and entryways. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so really when you're looking at a coffee table for me, it's less is more, but it's also what kind of grounds you down into that space. So it's a living room area, it's where you entertain, where you have people, where you might spend a lot of your time. And what type of beauty do you want to have there? A special coaster that you got while at Esalen? Is it a stone or a rock or a succulent that you really love? Is it a sculpture? Is it a candle, a scent that brings you back to a memory or that you really love? And I love flowers in my home. I'm obsessed with them. So plants and flowers, it's really about bringing nature in.
What are these examples of coffee table and entry table? What do these say? Like, what story do they tell? Are we trying to tell a story with what objects we place on our tables?
I always think we tell stories no matter what's in our home, whether that's we could care less or whether that's we care a lot. It really is telling of what we have in our house that kind of surrounds us. So, coffee tables and entryways are really kind of a view of what we are wanting to present, either for ourselves or the people that we invite in. These particular ones are great because they include, types of art that you might want to. So I love mirrors in the entryway. It just kind of opens the space and invites that kind of expansion in.
Is there a maximum number of objects that we should have on a table?
I have a thing for odd numbers. So if it's one, if it's three, five, um, less symmetry kind of, but yet it kind of grounds everything.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily you don't have to have three and three or two and two. It's kind of like maybe you have three on one side and maybe you have two on another. Maybe you have one on one side and you have five on another. It just depends on the object.
Okay. So blankets and pillows. So this is one I asked you about because I feel like, let me, for example, I go to Home Goods sometimes, and the pillow aisles, there's like four pillow aisles. Like, what's the deal with pillows and blankets? Like, what do we do?
I know there is. I mean, I think as women, we're a little guilty of that. We just love our blankets and our pillows. It's also cozy. It's inviting. It makes you want to curl up and be warm and, just loving almost. And I love pillows and blankets because it is something that you can curl up with, but it's also decorative and it can kind of add texture and depth into a space. So
So what is the deal with this blanket in the basket or blanket under a pillow? Like, how do we put them on things? Like, how many and where do we place them?
yeah, one of the things, if you're looking at this picture, I love how that entryway is where it has two pillows and a blanket. So there's that object of three. And then
Mhm.
above that, you have your artwork and it's nature. So it brings kind of that natural element into your space, but it also grounds in that kind of layer. It's almost like a triangle matching that staircase because then you have the basket on the other end. So it slopes down. It's almost a triangle shape. And again, it kind of matches the stairway, which gives you a bit of a balance.
I love that. And then bath and bedding. So tell us about this because I feel like the bath section is huge, bottles and soaps, and I'm just one of those people that for some reason can't buy enough soaps, but then I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, I really think your bedroom area and your bath area are really important because it also generates the whole self care and self love rituals, whatever that might be. And I love both of these because there is almost spa type atmosphere in that bath area, but it's also generated just for you. Um, and I love how it's kind of it's set up to where you can have a basket of soaps or you can have soaps in a container where your guests can also enjoy it. If you have guests over that use that restroom area, it's kind of nice for it. And then the bedding area, it's just nice to have clean, minimal, and just kind of natural fibers. One of the reasons I picked this photo for the bedding was that it brings in nature, but then it has this kind of natural element of the stone or ceramic, and then you've got this texture of that cushion.
So what I'm
So
hearing a lot through the sort of the through line of this and the thing that's common is like bringing nature inside is very soothing. Is that just a high priority object for you is to have something that houses nature within the house?
yeah, for me, it's very important to have a bit of nature in every single room, whether that's your living room, your bathroom, all of those things has it's touch of nature. So some of it might be artwork, some of it might be physical plants, others might be flowers. It might be to mimic a kind of almost like a fabrication of bark or of pebble flooring or anything like that, where it kind of brings that element inside. And there's something, kind of magical about that.
Yeah. Let's look at books because I think
Yeah.
the first time I met you, Heather, I was in the bookstore and we were like,
Yes.
there are so many books, and I could get
Oh,
lost in books, but then how do we arrange them and make them a practice of mindfulness in their placement and the ones that give us meaning? Because I have so many books and I know a lot of people do too. So what do we do with them?
yeah. I like to split them up. I'm the same. I love going into like old libraries and bookstores and all of that. It's one of my favorite. There's something about even the smell of books that I love. And while you're in your home, I don't really want to necessarily have it all stacked with books. So I chose these photos specifically where you kind of can place them in different ways and new and fresh ways of you can stack them up and down. You can do the traditional way of having them side to side, but then you can also incorporate, there's little plants or candles or, paintbrushes. There's all of those type of different things that can go in and can be almost treated like a book stop. There's all sorts of different ways to layer it. I also love crystals and stones that I pop onto a book. So
Mm, mm.
that's me though.
And then how do you mix them with, for example, pottery? Because I see quite a bit of pottery in this particular
Yeah.
bookshelf.
So one of the reasons that I like these particular slide is it's kind of, if you get pottery from somewhere or you have a special pottery item or cup or anything like that, you can prop that into a display and you can use that with all your books. It's kind of like mixing all sorts of different things that mean something to you is really what curation for me is all about. So you can choose a book with pottery, with a stone, with a candle, and it kind of all goes together. It's just about placing them all within each other.
There's a question from Beth. Do you take the dust cover off of books? Good question. Thanks, Beth.
Gosh, book people are gonna hate me, but yes, I do.
Why?
I
Why?
I love natural fibers. And mostly when you take that book cover off, it's this really, really beautiful natural fiber of a book. Not all books are like that, but really, if you go into this is what my little secret for books, if you go into vintage stores or flea marketing, whatever it might be, wherever you're at, you can get these really incredible older books that have those casings on them, take them off, and there they are. They're just brand new. And I don't know, there's different fabrics and ways of having that translate in your own home.
Beth
So
agrees
I
with you, by the
love
way. Thanks, Beth,
that.
for engaging on the conversation
Thank you,
about
Beth.
books.
Thank you.
Yeah, wall art. This is I really am challenged with this. Like I don't know how to put things on the wall. When this is all over, Heather, I just need you to come over.
Right. I mean, you know how I feel about that. I'll be right over.
Tell us, how do we arrange things that, in a way, objects that make it look like art?
So for me, it goes again with picking out things that traditionally are less artwork. Yes, go and get that amazing painting or amazing photograph and blow it up and make it, the size of your wall. Those things are really incredible. But if you choose things also from your travels or things that are from your family that mean a lot to you and create artwork for your wall, it really tends to kind of make it your own. Gallery walls, I love. And gallery wall can be as simple as 5 different things or 3 different things. It's just a patch of something that means something to you and that resonates with you and screams you. It's kind of, that's really what I love about gallery walls. And you can do anything. You can use macrame. You can choose. One of my favorite things is there was a person that I knew that basically had this funky piece of art, and it was an old lamp, and somehow they had constructed it so it was off the wall and it looked like an art piece, and then around it was a book cover, and there it was framed, and there were all these different things from their travels, and I just think it's really cool. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. You can make it your own.
Let me ask you about this particular photo because I've read this and other people have asked this as well, that there's a repetition in objects that are similar that can help create the appearance of art on the wall, and that in the grouping there can be meaning as well. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, because there's the aspect of the ratio, there's height, there's color, there's all that. Like this particular one, this photo has similar objects, and then there's one that's probably in the same cluster, much like canisters in a kitchen, you know, where, and some people may still have these, but canisters of flour or sugar, or, you know, like older people in my family might have. But there's
Hmm.
something also very cool about it, that it's all curated so that they match, but they don't particularly, they're not exactly the same, but they all
Yeah.
go with each other. So then it becomes an art piece wherever those particular objects are.
I have a canister
So
for sugar, by the way. So
in my head, I'm thinking
art
like,
on
you
the
know, a retro canister that's really cool.
yeah, I love that. I'll have to consult or get something from the Esalen store. Pictures of family. I've read this
Mhm.
before and you shared this picture, so it seems to validate like when the frames are different sizes but they're of similar type, is that what makes the curation of objects special, or is it the pictures themselves, or both?
I think it's both. Truth be told, this picture, I really liked how, you know, they went with this streamlined idea and then they incorporate their own. So adding the whole idea of having the same frame. There's gallery walls that have all sorts of different frames and different pieces. This particular one I liked because there was some type of, it makes it almost look like it could be one giant art piece, because it's similar in the idea of how it's presented, but then the presentation of the pictures are all a little bit different, different sizes, and obviously the pictures are different,
Mm.
which makes it really cool to go and look at from an art standpoint.
Well, at Esalen and in general in society, we are increasingly loving our spiritual objects, which brings up the idea of like, how can we integrate spiritual objects in a way that's meaningful, culturally appropriate, sensitive, mindful? These are a couple of things you picked to show us. Tell us about these.
Mhm. Well, you have kind of a modern take on it. You know, inhale, exhale. I think that that's a pretty broad spectrum, and politically correct. But
Hmm.
it's your home. You know, I think that that is a discussion to have for all of us when we're curating in our own home with our partners and our people that surround us in that home, what is appropriate for ourselves, you know, what works. And you can intertwine different types of ancestry, you know, and what that looks like. And that's another really great piece about it, you know, that spirituality is your own, and your family's, you know, in your home. And what does that look like? And there really is no wrong answer, because you can put little pieces of spirituality wherever you're at. I mean, it's very spiritual for me to have, you know, a crystal, uh, along with something that's maybe less technically spiritual. It's a sculpture from my grandparents. So it's kind of, but it is a spiritual experience for me when I'm around it, you know?
Yeah, I feel that from you. And in this photo
Yeah.
that you shared with us, the record player, the vintage record player, tell us why
Yeah.
objects like this are can be, and I think you touched upon it a little bit, but the spirituality of nostalgia, maybe.
Yeah. Well, there's, you know, all objects and all people and all beings carry energy with it. So I always think of vintage pieces of, my God, the stories that these pieces could tell because of all that they've been around. So having that particular vintage record player in your home, not only is it playing your music, but then it's also somewhere carrying the energy of all of these other beings, you know, that that had played it and that had had that experience. It's really cool in that way.
Yeah, we call that, when we share harmoniums in the yoga world, we say, "Oh, your harmonium has such good juju." you know?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
what about grouping objects? I mean, we went through these, but putting them
Mhm.
together, is there a right and a wrong way to put spiritual objects together, or is it really about the intent?
I think most of it for me is intention. Um, I don't know that there's necessarily a bad way to do something, because if your intention is to create a harmonious space, or a space that brings you back to your highest source, that's where you want to be, whatever that looks like. It might be a single candle, or it might be a cluster of crystals with sage is this picture. It could be a lot of different things. It's really up to each person to kind of decide what that looks like.
Mm. Well, Debbie just earlier said, "Is the bookstore online?" And it is. She couldn't find it, but it has a slight. No, you worked so hard on it. Has a slightly different URL. It's shop.esalen.org. It definitely
Mhm.
works toward helping Esalen stay afloat and stay steady and well maintained during COVID. A lot of objects are on there that Heather has brought from the past in the archives of Esalen and also bringing forward ones that she's curating into the future. Tell us about our special coupon, Heather.
I'm so excited. We're so excited to offer the 10% off if you go to our site and then you just use the code Esalen Live 10. Please use the code. Don't forget, you're going to have to punch that code in. Otherwise, it won't give you that. So it doesn't automatically tabulate it. You'll need to add that in.
Love
Yay!
that. Again, Esalen Live 10 is the code. Shop.esalen.org is the website. It'll all be online after we end up this conversation. I'll make sure everything is there. Heather, thanks so much for joining us on Esalen Live. I learned so much from you all the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Stay in touch, everyone. We will obviously have more from Heather when the bookstore opens, when Esalen reopens, and we'll take you to the bookstore because she's doing a whole bunch of amazing things there as well. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to see you and have a great day. Everyone, have a great day. Stay connected. Esalen.org, shop.esalen.org is the store. And also, you can stay with us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Esalen. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Well curated day. Right, Heather?
Yes, well curated. Perfect.